This is a bit of a change. This is not a piece of equipment. It is an album, Harlem Shuffle, The Sound of Blaxploitation. And it's how many? 14 tracks. Digitally remastered. Oh, I didn't realize that. That explains a lot. I just noticed that. And it's on the Plastic record label. When you're out looking for vinyl these days, new vinyl, you probably see all sorts of compilations and things that are clear bootlegs that were pressed probably in Europe, probably Eastern Europe, that a lot of people, they're able to do that now. The copyrights are run out, or they figure no one's going to catch us, or it's just vinyl. This smacks of the same thing, and I would agree with that, except for the fact, does it say? It doesn't say the copyright. I bought this in 1998, and maybe it says it on the back here. Does it? No, but this is clearly from Italy. Yeah, there we go. And, oh, that's the tag. Yeah, it doesn't say. I bought this in 1998. There used to be a great shop, Quonset Hut, in Northeast Ohio. They had 3 or 4 locations, I think Canton. They had one near the Chapel Hill Mall, which is what I would go to. And the Quonset Hut, they had CDs and all that, but they also had vinyl, which was very unusual in the 90s. And today I thank my lucky stars I bought all that 90s vinyl, because it's going to put my kids through college. This is not 90s music, as you can see. There's Curtis Mayfield, Donald Byrd, Isaac Hayes. You know what, I just realized I've rarely listened to side 2. I only usually listen to side 1. And these are all tunes from Blaxploitation films of the early 70s. Those were sort of action films that had a black protagonist and a primarily black cast. And you've seen the stereotypes usually on The Simpsons or Family Guy, where there's someone in a giant, ridiculous Cadillac with giant, ridiculous hat and clothes. Well, they're sort of taking off of Blaxploitation, but a lot of those films are actually really good. Probably the 2 most famous are Shaft and Superfly. And Superfly is Melvin Van Peebles, a very well-known director. He did that. And Shaft was written by Ernest Tiedemann, who the same year Shaft came out, he also had written another movie called French Connection, which won the Oscars for Best Picture and Best Screenplay. And I think that he passed away in the early 80s and had been teaching at Oberlin College in Ohio, or maybe Miami University, some college in Ohio. At one time, Ohio had the most institutions of higher learning per capita, and that was probably true then. I don't know if it's true now, because there's less people here. Oh, so that would make it even more true. I don't know. Well, this album, getting back to this album, I got this at Quonset Hut. I don't know why. Let's see if there's a price tag. There's not a price tag. I think there's a... Here we go. This is the old Quonset Hut price tag. And clearly, they didn't know what to do with this, because when they would cross it out and do that, Superfunk, that's a good way to put it, that meant, goodbye album, nobody wants you, and we're going to mark you down. $3.99. Unfortunately, this album, this is one of the few that's not worth a whole lot more than that. At least to resell. Not that I'm thinking of doing that. But musically, it's excellent. The sound, I always found a little thin. At the time, I had a Rotel RP2400 turntable, which I'd gotten for $20 at a garage sale from a friend of mine, who, strangely enough, their house was right down the street from where my brother lives now. And he also had an HK Harman Kardon HK 660, 670 receiver, which was great. If you go to Tone Audio, they have a write-up, I think, of that very receiver in their vintage section, which says everything that I would say about it. I don't have it anymore. And the RP2400, when I got it, the belt was either loose or missing, so I just used a rubber band because I didn't know any better. And it sounded fine, but the platter, you couldn't move it freely by hand. And in retrospect, that constriction was probably contributing to a bit of thinness in the sound. So this always sounded thin to me. It doesn't sound as thin anymore, but it still sounds pretty thin. But the song selection is first rate. And this album's pretty easy and cheap and plentiful to find online. And it's good representation. And it's a lot of cuts you don't hear. I mean, they could have just put on Shaft. Oh, this is from Superfly. Okay, so that's a well-known song from Superfly. But there's no songs from Shaft, which was by Isaac Hayes. Truck Turner, which was the name of his character in that movie. He actually acted. That's a pretty good tune. And in fact, that was when he started acting in the 70s, no one knew he was eventually going to go on South Park. And then his handlers went nuts, or he went nuts, and there was a whole thing, and he left that show, and then he passed away. But putting all that aside, these are all some pretty good tunes. I don't think that's from a movie. I think that's just from him in general. Oh, Bumpy's Lament, that's a good tune. I should listen to side 2 of this. So obviously they only had rights to a few of, there's 3-4 songs from Truck Turner. And this, Sweet Sweetback, that was directed by the same guy who did Superfly that I mentioned earlier, Melvin Van Peebles. So it's an odd duck, this Italian album of Blaxploitation that was found in an Ohio bargain bin. New, I might add. I bought this new. It's pretty reasonably well pressed. Now that I see the digital remastering, I'm pretty sure that's the thinness in the sound, but still a good album.